Alright guys, so today we're gonna go over basically Oscar's top 5, my top 5 cards for Opus 21. Now these are personal picks of things that we are excited for, pretty much. So why don't you go ahead and give us your first one?
My first pick would probably be Shiva, Ice Summon. Okay. If you cast Shiva, you may remove 4 ice cards in your break zone from the game as an extra cost. Choose one character, dull it, and freeze it. If you pay the extra cost, return Shiva to its owner's hand. Really good card. At 1 cost, I actually run a Shiva deck, so that's why I really choose this. And I just feel like it's a really good card, and for a low cost.
If I chose any summon, because spoiler, I didn't choose any summons, that one or Odin was going to be, it was down to those two if I chose either one.
Odin's good.
Yeah, so I guess I kind of have a cop out for my first one because it's a starter deck card and I've already been playing with it. But I really like the Tidus from the Dissidia box. So he has an EX burst that when he enters the field, choose a forward your opponent controls, return it to the owner's hand. And then otherwise, when a forward your opponent controls is returned from the field to the owner's hand, draw a card, gain a crystal, and it only happens once per turn. So way back when we first started, my very first deck that I ever built was a wind water deck. And I don't know if you remember, it had Zidanes that were basically popping things to your hand, and then every time you dealt damage, draw 2 cards, just dumb stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like a full circle thing for me. I really like that card, and playing it in the Dissidia deck that I have now, I really, really enjoy.
Yeah. My next choice would be a monster. Bomb, of course. Pay 1, fire, dull it, put bomb in the break zone, choose 1 forward, deal it 4,000 damage, then search for 1 card named bomb and play it onto the field. It's a 1 cost. I feel it's a pretty strong card, especially if you're running fire and monsters. You're probably running goblins, and between the goblin and that, pinging something can probably kill it. And if you want to ping it more than once with goblin, you'll definitely kill it. And then it's just a way to mill out the deck to get to the cards that you really, really want to use. Thins the deck.
Yeah. In my opinion, in 21, there's a lot of things that help Magissa, and that's one of them.
Yeah. That
is one of the cards that is just stupid good for the Magissa deck right now. My next choice is Irvine. Probably no surprise. Big Final Fantasy VIII buff. But when Irvine enters the field or attacks, choose up to 2 cards in your opponent's break zone, remove them from the game. If 2 characters are removed by this effect, until the end of the turn, Irvine gains 2,000 haste and first strike. That's just really cool in and of itself, being a little bit of break zone hate and being a haster. I toyed around with a Seifer Fujin Raijin deck for a little while, and I feel like this kind of perfectly slots right into that. But he also has a special for basically a copy of Irvine, 1 lightning, choose a forward of cost 5 or less and break it. So actually choose a forward or monster of 5 or less and break it.
Monster hate.
Yeah, so
don't make monster hate.
I really do enjoy that. I don't know that I would run, it could be kind of like a Yuffie situation where you run 3 copies of the Opus 21 and then like 1 copy of something else, just to gain extra specials, because that is pretty good hate just in general.
Yeah, definitely. And now monsters are trying to make a comeback or a statement or a thing.
Yeah,
for sure. My next choice would probably be Ferris. Let's see. The power of the job pirate forwards and card name Viking forwards, other than Ferris you control gain, becomes 8,000. Pay 0, choose 1 summoner ability. That is choosing only Ferris. You may choose another water forward you control. The newly chosen forward must be a valid choice. That's okay, but the Vikings, I really like Vikings. I feel like they're going to be a cool little fun deck. Maybe not meta, but definitely a rogue, I guess. I guess there really is nothing super meta right now. There's good decks, and any deck in Final Fantasy, I think, can compete with others. I just really like the Vikings, and a card to go along with that, the bike. So I feel like it's more of a package deal, not necessarily just Ferris. Because then if you run Ferris, you're probably going to be running Bike or Big, whatever his name is, the new hero, rare. but I feel like they're gonna be a fun deck to toy with, and you can go either way, either fire, water, or earth, water. I think with those, or just pure water, mono water. I think they'll be a fun deck.
I may or may not have bought all of the foil Vikings that I could.
Yeah.
So my next choice is actually Vieira. So it's a win backup. When she enters the field, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, add 1 card among them to your hand, put the other ones at the bottom of the deck, and then you can pay 1, tap her, put her into the break zone to look at the top 2 cards of your deck, add 1 card among them to your hand, put the other ones at the bottom. So the reason that I like this is because in Opus 20, Loprit has really shown how much consistency it can help with a deck. Just being able to dig and then put things back in the deck when you don't want them in your hand. I seem to tend to run a lot of decks where I want things to be in the deck rather than in my hand sometimes. Cloud Pod and stuff like that, of course. So that's kind of a really interesting mechanic in and all of itself, and I think Vieira adds fuel to the win decks in being able to dig for those names that you already don't have on the field, to kind of just help with the consistency. I really like that card in general.
My next card would be Titan. That's summon, of course. You can only pay with RCP to cast Titan. Select one of the 2 following actions. Choose 1 forward, deal it 9,000 damage. Choose 1 dull forward, or break it. I just feel like that's a pretty strong card. I mean, usually if you're running Earth, you can provide the Earth CP to cast that if you're going to play that in a deck, and it can basically get over most cards except for Wool and a few others that are 10. Mm-hmm. But I feel like it's a strong card at 3 CP.
And it says select one of the following 2?
Yep.
So I wonder if you activate it and bait out a dull from Wool, then you can just select that on resolution to break a dull forward.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. My next pick is actually Lena. So it's a water backup. EX Burst, when your opponent uses an EX Burst, draw a card, which is a very weird EX Burst to have in and of itself. But basically on EX, she just draws your card. But then I like that this set in general has a lot of EX hate. Like Felthanos.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Princess Sarah, Lena, like they all kind of have this EX burst. We know it's a problem. Here's how we're going to try to help mitigate it.
Yeah.
Whether you think it's a problem or not. I like that there's ways to get around it, because as both Oscar and I know, I don't ever hit EX, and I always run into all the EX.
Very true. That's how lucky you are.
Yeah, but being that she's a backup, she also has a special, which I found really interesting, because typically once you get a name back up on the field, you kind of just use it as CP in your hand at that point. But she has a special that costs a copy of her, a water, and dull her, and then you can choose a forward of cost 3 or less in your break zone and play it onto the field. So automatically that makes me think of Vikings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, being able to basically ditch her, grab a Viking, draw the card, you know, whatever you're doing. I think that's really, really interesting. And it's just any forward of cost 3 or less. So it fits into a lot of different things.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah.
My last card, of course, you probably already guessed this one, is Gal. I run a lot of monsters, and that's what I took to our Materia Cup in Raleigh, and I actually placed top 16 with it, so I really like monsters. And this is going to help my deck out a lot. The cost required to cast Gal is reduced by 1 for each monster you control. When Gal enters the field, choose 1 forward your opponent controls. If its cost is equal to or less than the number of monsters you control, put it at the bottom of its owner's deck. You can also dull active Gal, choose 1 monster until the end of the turn. It also becomes a forward with 8,000 power. So the reason why I like this is, for one, in my deck at most times it'll probably be a free play. And then also, if it's also free play, then you can about return anything to the deck. And then also dull active Gal. It doesn't have to have haste, it's just a dull it, choose 1 monster until the end of the turn. It becomes a forward with 8,000 power if you're trying to go for game. And since he doesn't have haste and you're trying to push for game as he comes out there, you can make Evray a forward, any other monsters that don't have it. And then you can also use it on ones like Blue Worm that are going to break at the end of the turn, and it shouldn't break at the end of the turn. So I think it's if you're just trying to poke for a turn as well, it works in all situations, I think.
Yeah, and the removal that it has built into it is the best kind of removal, sticking it at the bottom, because then they've got to spend resources, or they may have already spent resources searching for it or whatever.
Yeah,
so that's
don't get that break zone effect.
Exactly. My last card, which I am surprised we didn't choose any duplicates, Princess Goblin.
Yeah.
So
I like it.
I guess it's kind of weird that I chose 3 backups, but I really like Princess Goblin, and it's only because of what it adds to a lot of different decks. So like you can think of, what was the line we had? It was Verna into Princess Goblin into Princess Sarah.
Yeah.
There was like a guaranteed way to get all 4 colors if you were playing wool. Yeah. And then if you already have your 4 colors, you can just play Princess Goblin to search wool.
Yeah.
So like it literally is just a huge consistency booster. But in a scenario where you're running mono wind, it's also really interesting to be able to search out something else, or like if you search out Princess Sarah for mono wind, and you want to buff all of your forwards or something, or you're running wind ice, or you're running wind water. I mean, it doesn't matter, because Princess Sarah calls whatever element you want, and then you color fixed.
Yeah.
So I really like that Princess Goblin searches basically any color fixer for wind.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So did you have an honorable mention?
I did. It just kind of goes along with another card. So my honorable mention was Galoof, however anybody wants to say it. The forwards that cost 2 or less, you control, gain 2,000 power. When Galoof enters the field, reveal the top 5 cards of your deck. Play 1 forward of cost 2 or less among them onto the field, or return the others to the bottom of the deck in any order. I feel like it's going to be, well, I'm going to run Earth, Water, Vikings, so I'm definitely going to play this in there. May not work out. It may work. I don't know. And I feel like that's a good card to add to them to boost them on top of Ferris's boost. And then also he has a special. Just pitch one of him, Dolan, choose 1 forward, deal at 8,000 damage, which is not bad, especially if you get stuck with another one of him in your hand. So it does pretty good.
I immediately went to playing that in a monster deck, because then all your blue worms, basically, when they become forwards, they become 8k, right? Your Tonberries are 4k, which Tonberry's Tonberry at the end of the day. But
yeah,
a lot of implications with even your monsters that are forwards when you activate them.
But, yeah.
Tross is 2-drop as well, isn't he?
Yep. There's a lot of 2-drop stuff that boost him by 2,000 is really good.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them are on the borderline of 6,000 and 7,000. And then what's Thomas? It's 7.
7,000. Yeah, but he's a 3 cross.
Is he 3?
No, he's 2. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. So that puts him up there.
Yeah, that's interesting. My honorable mention was actually the backup line that we got this set. So all of them are basically crystal generators.
Yeah.
I really like how they all, as soon as they enter the field, you gain a crystal, but if you control 3 or less backups, also draw a card. So if you're running crystal heavy decks, obviously you could run like just the wind water one that I've been running for DFF. You could run your Dragoon, but you can also run whatever the other one is. I think it's a Ninja this set. So basically you get crystals no matter what backup you're dropping, but in the early game you're also drawing cards and helping dig further down. I really liked all those backups. I thought they were very interesting.
Yeah,
especially
like the water one I like. It's really good.
Yeah, and certain decks where you don't necessarily care to run 4 and 5 backups, decks that's not important, and you are running crystals. I think they're really, really interesting.
Yeah, I think crystals are gonna do good.
Yeah,
a lot of crystal help with this set.
Oh yeah. So that's basically, I guess you could call it our top 10. But let us know in the comments what your most anticipated cards are for Opus 21. And see you in the next one.